Howdy. Welcome back to the Lookout Sea Scout podcast. My name is Chris DeBetta, and I'll be the host for tonight. Tonight, I'm joined by a very special guest. This special guest is the National Bosun's Mate of Communications. Katie, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Hello, everyone. My name is Katie Notbohm. I am the National Bosun's Mate of Communications. So I run the Facebook, Instagram, everything external that you guys see. I'm in charge of that. I'm an Able Scout based in Ship 782 in the Andrew Jackson Council, and I'm excited to be here, Chris.
Oh, yeah, we're gonna have a great time just chit-chatting about Cub Scouts tonight. So,
Oh yeah.
Katie, I wanted to ask you, how are you doing?
How am I doing? I'm doing great. Hitting the last quarter of my senior year, so it's all starting to roll together, come together, and I'm ready to graduate.
Oh, yeah. I saw recently, do you have plans for going to college? I saw something maybe on your Instagram earlier.
Oh yeah, I'll be going to the University of Alabama in Huntsville. I'll be majoring in mechanical engineering, minor in math. So be playing with rockets and all sorts of other techie mechanical stuff.
Very cool. As a fellow engineer, very excited for you and your journey.
Thank you.
Uh, of course. So, on the topic of Cub Scouting, so out of curiosity, what is your relation to, either being a Cub Scout, working with Cub Scouts, just Cub Scouts in general?
Yeah. So unfortunately I wasn't able to be a Cub Scout. Didn't really join in time. So I joined when I was 13. So no Cub Scouting for me, but uh ever since I joined the ship, we would go down to our local camp, Hood Scout Reservation. Definitely check it out. And we go down there 3, 4 times a year, and we work at the waterfront as a whole ship. We bring out the canoes, rowboats, and the Cub Scouts can go out with their parents, and they go out around the lake for their desire time or their block time, which is like an hour and a half. So we lead that whole waterfront. We facilitate setting it up, taking it down, giving safety briefings, all underneath the supervision of our aquatics director and our skipper. So we all go there, hang out, work. There's like one camp out, polar bear. You can't really do anything on the water. So we just go there, volunteer, help out. It's just a lot of fun to go there, hang out with Cub Scouts. I see them as a really important part of all of scouting, because they're the future of this program. They're gonna hopefully go through the entire program, join Sea Scouts, join venturing. So it's important to, share with them our love for the program as well as, you know, aquatic safety and how to be out on the water safely, because those are all very important for their future.
100%, yeah. And I think one of the things that, just broadly, whenever we talk about membership retention, especially in older youth programs, a lot of time I feel like, at least for me, the focus has been very much so lately on how can we get people that are within the age, like, that 14 to 21 range for Sea Scouts venturing, how can we get those people to join our units? And while I think that's definitely important, very crucial to getting membership up, recharter rates up, we also have to focus on the future, right? And so
Yeah.
within that comes who is going to precede us, who is going to be there whenever, I'm 20 years old. I'm going to be, being an adult, I still plan to be involved, but who is going to be, that youth, that adult program participant? And that's going to be those younger scouts. They're going to grow up and eventually they can be us, but how can they be us without knowing who we are? So I love that you're kind of introducing them to Cub Scouts or to Sea Scouts at such a young age. Out of curiosity, uh, have you worked with like older scouts? I mean, maybe in terms of like merit badges, and then out of curiosity, contrasting that with Cub Scouts, do you think there's a difference in difficulty, like teaching, learning, things like that?
A little bit. Yeah. So for Cub Scouts, I go out, we lead the waterfront, do that. The Cub Scouts have a great time. The parents love what we do. So just kind of helping them out there. In terms of older scouts, like Troop Scouts BSA, I haven't really had a chance to work with them as much, but I did get lifeguard certified for my second year on camp staff. So I was down at the waterfront the full summer and, I got lifeguard certified because I'm in a ship and I also need that for rank advancement. So it just kind of all went together. We have 2 days at the start of the summer, 2 or 3 days, maybe even five. But we have Cub Scouts come in, we work with them on any kind of awards that they have. But then for the rest of the summer, I taught instructional swim, so and stand up paddleboarding like for 1 week. Um, I would say that, Cub Scouts is more focused on having fun, them doing their best. They're just going out there and learning about, aquatics. Some of them love it, some of them, prefer to fish or be at the climbing tower. So they're just kind of learning what they like. In terms of Scouts BSA, I didn't teach a merit badge, but you're working with people a little bit closer to our age. They're actively learning and practicing skills. So I really can't speak too much to working with Scouts BSA, but I would say, you're actively instructing Scouts BSA. And then for Cub Scouts at our Cub Scout events, we're just, running around with them, having fun, being safe, stuff like that.
For sure, yeah. And I'm kind of I feel you on the lifeguard. So I actually just gotten my lifeguard certification done. And while this past summer on camp staff here at Camp Strake San Luis Area Council, I wasn't down at aquatics, I wasn't certified. I brought the lifeguard snacks a couple times, but beyond that, I was sticking around the world and cycling. But I do think you touched on something very important, and that's like they're there with their family and kind of family and them having fun is kind of those core values. I
Yeah.
recently went over that this past weekend. I was at Wood Badge and we were talking about the sort of the core competencies and kind of the purposes of Scouts BSA, Cub Scouting, venturing Sea Scouts. And so I thought very interesting that um, especially as Sea Scouts, so we do a lot of maritime-based advancement. And so a lot of that is learning and gaining knowledge. And while I love that, that might not be necessarily in the Cub Scouts' interest yet, right?
Yeah.
So how can we pique their interest so that they want to join so they want to join Sea Scouts instead of saying, you get to learn, figure eight and a bowline, very important for us, but for them, are they going to remember that? Are they going to retain that? Is that going to make them want to join? Not really. And so, again, really like what you're doing there, where you're just kind of showing them how to have fun.
Yeah. And especially instilling aquatic safety. Um, they're probably not paying as much attention to that as their parents are. They're just like, "Ooh, water, I'm gonna go out in a canoe." Their parents are paying attention, but they learn how to use that paddlecraft. They learn how to use it safely and go out on the water, get to explore a little bit. So I think, that fun part is what really, fulfills them. I mean, some of them they go out on the water, they stand up on the bow of the canoe and go. So some of them, it's not their forte, but for the most part, I've seen a lot of the kids enjoy it. There was one scout that I worked with, I think it was an Aquila weekend, and we were going on a rowboat with his mom, and his face was just lit up, and he was so excited. And like the whole time, he's like, "I'm gonna be a Sea Scout. I'm gonna join Sea Scouts when I'm older. I'm gonna be a Sea Scout." All that stuff. So, just getting to see them have fun on the water is probably my favorite part of the job. Is just getting to work with them, teach them, and then they go out and have a blast.
For sure. I found it super powerful just wearing the uniform. In all honesty, there some people have, they've come up with lots of ideas with, getting Cub Scouts at least in the know of older youth programs. And honestly, what I can speak to from my experience too, which we can dive into a little bit later, is by just being present and wearing those blues, and for the venturers wearing those greens, it makes all the difference. Whenever I show up, for example, I'll even give this at Wood Batch this past weekend, there were three people in blue uniforms. And just like that, all the conversation in the room just instantaneously, whenever we all walked in, was look at those blue uniforms. Now, I think they're snazzy, but beyond the point, the Cub Scouts also think that. And so, again, back to tying that back to what we were talking about is they're in for the fun and they see us in those blue uniforms, and that just starts the conversation. I think that's super cool.
Yeah, and I definitely think that being at the Cub Scout weekends has been some of my most fun memories. I love working with scouts. I love seeing, especially at summer camp, helping them out, seeing them grow throughout the week. That's been one of the most rewarding parts of the job. But just being out there with my ship and having fun is just, we all get that bond. We get to hang out. Um, we would go stand in the boating area a few times, and we would just end up like shoving each other around, like pushing us into the water, like nothing harmful, just having fun in the water, splashing. So it gets a lot of fun just being out there with the ship and hanging out in the water.
For sure. I think it's also nice that you can kind of almost serve a dual purpose of, a lot of my ship also volunteers or, we're on staff at our local, it's Bove Scout Ranch, so it's the weekend adventure camps for Cub Scouts. And I think it's great that we can serve almost a dual purpose of we can have that fellowship and we can have that community within our ship and we can even get some advancement done hypothetically. Or even, maybe that counts as like a tier, a tiered adventure and venturing. And on top of that, while we're there having fun, having fellowship, we can still educate these new people who can potentially become new Sea Scouts.
Yeah, and we're also, gaining that visibility in that count in the council. For my council, we have one ship, and we're like one out of two or three in the state. So that visibility for us is really important. The Cub Scouts see us, the parents see us, the volunteers see us, the people in the council see us, which I think is really great because they see the uniforms and they're like, I've never seen that before. What is that? They ask us, and it grows the program in so many ways. But going back to what you're saying about Cub Scout weekend, I saw that you led a weekend, like, was it November, October? You want to talk about that?
Oh, for sure, yeah. So in early November, myself, I can't take all the credit. I had a great co-program director, that being Miss Natalie Fakir-Rivari, who is the current Sam Houston Area Council VOA president. We were called earlier in, I believe, September to kind of heat that event. We had undergone some changes in leadership within the council, and so within that, we were kind of tasked with rebuilding this program called Weebulow's Coyote Extreme. And so for a lot of years, what that had meant was, or at least what that looked like, was kind of just like a regular old Cub Scout adventure camp. And for people in Sam Houston Area Council, that kind of happens, almost monthly, and we've been doing them a lot more. But they want to rebuild it into something that, almost that fit the name, so something extreme, especially for
Yeah.
the price we were charging them and everything like that. And so one of the biggest successes of that event that I felt that myself and Natalie accomplished was older youth program representation. And so we had a lot of fun doing other activities like making them cook their own lunch, um, doing activities like BBs, archery, um, even something more basic like leather work. But the key difference there was for example, we had canoeing as one of the activities. And so we said all the staffers for canoeing are going to be Sea Scouts and they're going to be wearing their blue uniforms. Similarly, we had another station, kind of worked in stations where we had them constructing catapults. If you're familiar with the NYLT process, you might find that familiar from the pioneering projects that you do on day two. And we said, okay, we want venturing scouts, in their green uniforms teaching that. And then over at Leatherwork, we had people representing the OA wearing their sashes. And at each station, they gave a little spiel kind of about some of the skills and some of the highlights of the program. But again, just like we mentioned earlier, just them being in their uniforms was so great for us. And we still hear talk from the council about parents kind of inquiring, hey, who are those people in the blue uniform? How can I, what did the next steps look for me and my kid? And it was really great. Overall, a really great success.
Yeah, that's really cool.
And then I also heard that you were doing something in regarding to your quartermaster project regarding Cub Scouts. You want to talk about that?
Oh, yeah. So for my quartermaster cruise, we have a cuppery coming up. So we have it every spring. A bunch of Cub Scouts come to our camp. They have the climbing towers open, the waterfront's open. There's a bunch of different activities. In the past, a few times I've gone to just run around camp and see some really cool nooks and crannies I didn't know about. But for this year's cuppery, my quartermaster cruise, I'm going to be leading the waterfront under supervision from our skipper and aquatics director. So I'm basically going to be creating the station bill for the waterfront, giving the safety briefings, um, creating duty rosters for, our meals, because pretty much everything's provided because it's a council event. But, Waterfront's what they put the Sea Scouts in charge of. So I'm just gonna be leading that. And I mean, I love working with Cub Scouts. It's a really fun job, and it's just really great to be down there on the water. In our free time, we just kind of go out and, go around in a circle around the lake. We've done that before. Just go around the lake, hang out. It's also a lot of fun to just talk about Sea Scouts and just be a Sea Scout out in the water.
Yeah, I think that's really admirable actually that I think when people have an idea of their quartermaster cruise, I know for me when that first pops into my head, my initial impulse is I'm gonna be on my 35-foot sloop down where I sail out of, and I'm gonna be doing like that 5 leg course, and I'm gonna be on that big vessel. But I think it's super cool that you were able to incorporate bringing that recognition and working with Cub Scouts even and doing it at camp, and all the while you're satisfying that requirement. That's super cool.
Thank you. And I mean, I would just say for any Sea Scouts in general, wanting to get involved in the council, it's a great time to be down there with the ship, because we're not working the full time. There's Friday night where we just hang out, get to hang out with the other staff. We have that full day Saturday, some breaks in between, and then campfire Friday or show Friday, and then Sunday. It's just a great time as well. And I love doing that. I think again, it's just kind of a built-in camp out because they ask the Sea Scouts to work. So every year we block off that time on our schedule. So we're guaranteed to have a camp out, 3 or 4 times a year.
Yeah. And for those who maybe aren't involved in, may not even necessarily camp staffing, but going to these council level events with where there are Cub Scouts present, even just scouts present, I think it's super important to reiterate again, it doesn't even have to be, aquatic based, right? So like we've been saying over and over again, just having the uniform on is great. And I'll give an example too. So there are a lot of Sea Scout ships here in San Houston Area Council, maybe a bit different than where you are, Katie, but we have a really big presence in a lot of the council camp staffing events. And so what that means is, at summer camp, we have some blue uniforms there, pretty basic, right? But even at, the Cub weekend adventure camps, the full throttle events, which is for merit badges for Scouts BSA, National Camping School staff, anything like that. We've built a really great community here of Sea Scouts, and
That's awesome.
with it's great, yeah. And within that, it's half the time, there isn't even opportunity to be, it's January, it's February, it's cold here in Texas, and I perhaps you can relate as well.
Yeah.
And and so we can't really do, these on the water activities. We go out on the canoes, if they capsize, they're getting hypothermia. We're not putting them on the water, but yet all of these staffers, and especially the opportunity of being in an older youth program and being in that 18 to 21 range is you can have a lot of great competencies, leadership competencies, be a Sea Scout or adventurer, and display that to those younger people.
Yeah. I especially think, the close bonding of Sea Scouts. Like we just had a quartermaster cruise, or my friend's quartermaster cruise, working on it together. She had her cruise this past weekend. So, we went out in the water, we all hung out. I mean, we were sailing in some pretty tough winds. Like we were healing like this, like almost slid into the water. So we have to work together. And then the Cub Scouts see that, we become really efficient with communicating when we're, running around with station bills and making sure we're running the aquatic smoothly. And the Cub Scouts see that. They see that, the ship is working well together, that we're all communicating well and just having a great time. That's what any scout wants, is to have a great time, get to be outside, which is, what I love about scouts. It's just, frolicking through the woods and having a great time.
Right. And I think that's actually a really great point. And one of the things that was really hammered, or at least that I took away from Wood Badge this past weekend, is leading by example. And so um, I won't speak for everybody. I know there are lots of troops that are out there that know how to have a good time. I just know from my personal experience, occasionally, I would say, advancement centric, right? So
Yeah.
there's some people, especially those that are approaching that 18 years old range, where they need to get that eagle, and so it's no longer about even like sharing those, having those shared values of the BSA mission statement, Scout law. It's I need to get this advancement done, rush, rush, rush,
Yeah.
rush, rush, and so um, a big reason why I joined Sea Scouts is I saw the Sea Scouts in my council having fun. And that's what
Yeah.
a big part and a big part of retention is just you need to have some fun and they need to see that you can have fun because they want to have fun too.
Yeah, that's something I really love about my ship too, is I mean, I got my Eagle a little while back. Some people in my ship are either just got it or they're working on it still, but the ship is not really focused on ranks, you know. Our skipper's like, hey, you want to come up to me, talk about ranks, we can get this signed off. You can do it at your own pace, but it's not really focused on advancement. It's more focused on the skill building. We go out on the water every weekend. Unless there's like no wind or bad weather, then we're doing rank advancement. But it's really focused on the experience. So some people are like, do I have to get to core master? I'm like, no, there you don't have to. I mean, I'm kind of on the grind right now because I graduate mid-May. So I'm like, I gotta get it before then because after that it's gonna be getting ready for college and stuff like that. So, just any kind of deadline is imposed by oneself. So it's just really focused on being out there. And if people want rank, they can get it. There's no pressure. It's just great.
Yeah. And I think it's really nice. I've been recently getting a bit more involved with the crew that I just joined. And one of the things I saw was really interesting, and I think that it's reflected across Sea Scouts as well. They make it very, very clear with their advancement, though, is service to others and service to yourself. And so
Yeah.
a lot of that is, again, there are a bunch of merit badges that reflect kind of similar values in Scouts BSA. I just think that we have a unique opportunity as older youth programs to kind of be on the forefront of that page, right? So where Sea Scouts BSA can definitely still demonstrate that we're kind of at the forefront of that. Sea Scouts Adventuring, where we can say, look at us. We're still doing, maybe we're not doing advancement, maybe we're doing advancement, doesn't matter. We're still coming together, we're having fun, we're serving the community, and we're serving ourselves. I think that's really important.
That's sort of really like about I'm not very active in venturing, but like Sea Scouts, you're giving back, you're learning, and it's just kind of, you some people they might age out of their troop and then they go to Sea Scouts and there's still adventure there for people all the way up until they're 21.
And there's been, I've had some conversations in the past couple of weeks with people trying to start up new Sea Scout ships, and a lot of it is, um, I don't have experience as a executive or commissioner, and they're, with their goals, with membership retention, but a lot of it is just finding that initial amount where you can even create a unit. I think, at least from my experience with Sea Scouting, that's been the main struggle. And so tying it all back together, if we want that to happen, we want our program to grow, and we want to keep that membership and grow it, we're gonna have to start catering to these Cub Scouts, to these younger people, so we can
Yeah.
hopefully, at least for me, one of the things I hold very important is leaving a legacy. And so
Yeah.
I think a lot of Sea Scouts can relate, even especially if you're on the older side. A lot of people, start dipping out of scouting. You get their eagle, maybe they eagle out, maybe they're burnt
Yeah.
out. A lot of people, Sea Scouts and older, venturers that I see that are still involved as 20, 21-year-olds becoming adult advisors, they genuinely care about the well-being of the program. And part of that
Yeah.
is we need to not only get people that are our age, a bit younger than us in there now, but we need to start focusing on our future. And so what that means,
Yeah.
Cub Scouting.
Oh yeah. I always say that Cub Scouts are the future of the program. I see them as like when summer camp rolls around, I'm geared up, I'm ready, I'm locked in for these Cub Scouts because if they have a really bad experience as a Cub Scout, that's going to reflect on how they feel about the rest of scouting. So, I want to give them a good experience. I want them to have fun. I want it to be, just really great for them because they're the future of this program, and we have to work to make sure that they enjoy it, have fun, and they come back for, the next 10, 15, 20, 30, 40, 50, so on, so on years.
Yeah,
And
a big
especially,
part. Sorry, go ahead.
oh yeah, I was just going to say in regards to like eagling out, I tell a lot of scouts that I meet, I don't like the term eagling out. I want to replace it with eagling up, where they go up into a sea scout or venturing or even exploring, crew, post ship. They go into that. They can still stay active with their troop, but people can dual register. You can be I know people in a ship, crew, post, troop. I'm in a lodge and everything. So, I always talk about, try and join a ship or a crew or a post and stay involved in scouting because the adventure does not end after Eagle Scout or after first class or after your troop. can go on for a very long time. I've known people who are in scouts until they die. Like it's, there's always something to do.
Right. It gives you the opportunity to continue being able to do what we do best as scouts, and that's catering to other people. And so, whereas in in the troop, you hit 18, you can become like an ASM, for example. So maybe holding on to that's more of an adult role, right? Whereas you and me are still considered youth in the program, adult program participant if you want to be specific for YPT, but um, and I think especially as I'm starting to get older, I'm about to hit 21 in October, and as I'm starting to become an adult, it's about mentoring and advising. But if you still want to have that direct impact on those youth, then joining Sea Scouts and venturing gives you that opportunity. And I did want to also comment on one thing that you mentioned, and that was them having good experiences when they were younger. One of the biggest things I've taken away from my current job as a IT technician at A&M University um, is in terms of customer service, people tend to remember bad experiences way, 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 way more than the good ones. And I could even share, I'm sure people could even share that experience within scouting too. And so definitely super important to leave them with a good taste in their mouth.
Yeah, especially, sometimes there's a plan for something to happen, but maybe it's better to give up that plan and, do something that everyone enjoys. Like the quartermaster cruise this weekend, instead of, teaching after dinner, everyone was tired. We just had like a very, very intense day of sailing on the water. So we decided to play games and just hang out, and that was far more fun than teaching and learning ever would be. No shade, but it's just fun to hang out. And again, these Cub Scouts experiences matter to them, and they're there to have fun, they're there to learn. So making both of those things fun is just just seeing all the Cub Scouts, their faces light up when they do something really fun or they learn something new. It's a really rewarding job.
100%. And Katie, as we kind of wrap up this episode, is there anything that you kind of want to broadcast out there? Maybe your involvement with NYLT, any kind of lasting message that you want to leave the listeners around the world?
Oh yeah, so there is going to be an NYLT course. The Andrew Jackson Council does close. The registration does close at the end of the month. But if there's anyone who needs an NYLT course, come my way. It's a great course. It's a lot of fun. But thank you for having me, Chris. And I mean, my advice to everyone is to get active, get involved, get out there, and work with Cub Scouts. Work with troops. Sea Scouts have a lot of knowledge that can be really helpful at council events, even national events. Just get out there, talk about Sea Scouts, wear the uniform, yap about Sea Scouts. That's what I do. And I just yap
So
about it the whole
true.
time. Someone's like, "What's that uniform?" And I just tell them everything about Sea Scouts because, gotta get out there.
Yeah. And the biggest thing that I could also just to add on to what you said is they're not going to know if you're not involved, right? And so a big part of that is putting yourself out there. Maybe you're not necessarily comfortable with that yet, and that's okay. But within that, you know, I was totally uncomfortable with public speaking, um, almost being like like the face of something, center of attention, things like that. And I took NYLT and that changed for me. But even if you're not in the position where you can take, leadership training, um, find people that share your experiences, fellow Sea Scouts, fellow older youth programs, even adults or youth who kind of have the same feelings as you. You bond with them and you can bring that to your local events, your council events, even territory events, and that makes all the difference.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Katie, thank you so much for joining us. It's been an
Thank you
absolute
for
pleasure
having me.
having you on. Once again, my name is Chris DeBetta. I am the CST 7 and 8 National Youth Territory Support Lead. This has been the Lookout Sea Scout podcast. We'll catch you guys in the next episode. Bye bye.